Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about desperation and how being desperate to get something is actually pushing that thing further away from you. So what we're actually going to talk about today is not just like a theory, but like it's scientifically proven, and you can go ahead and look all of this information up for yourself and check out all the sources and stuff like that. I don't do that stuff here on my I check my sources and stuff, but I don't share the sources. You can go, search stuff up for yourself, sis. Don't make me do all the work for you. I will inspire you to do the thing. You go ahead and do that thing for yourself, okay? So let's talk about it, because this is one of those things that you may have heard before. Like, the more desperate you are about something, the further away it seems to be from you. And I love to use the example of like dating. When you meet someone, and I know, sis, you've been there before. All of us ladies have been there before, where we meet like this guy, and at first it feels kind of cool, but then they give off this desperate energy to want to be with you. And because of that desperate energy, it's turning us off. It's just like, oh, I don't know, like, why are you this desperate? Like, I know I'm cute and whatever, but like, it's a turn off. Like, it makes us want to run the opposite direction. And that's the same thing that we're doing when we're desperate about something. Then we have that same effect on getting that thing, but it's a slightly little bit different. It's not just because like we or the thing looks at us and says, ew, like you're not as attractive when you're desperate. It's actually because of what we're doing to ourselves when we enter this desperate energy. So desperation is actually triggering the stress response in the brain. So when we're desperate about the outcome of something, for instance, when we have a goal and we're just like, it has to happen within a specific time frame, or like at this specific time or whatever, we're now activating within our brain a stress response, because we're now acting or like being desperate for this thing to happen at a specific time. So we are narrowing in sort of like the opportunities almost of how and when it can come in, because we've said it has to happen here. And then the more time that passes and it's still not coming, guess what's happening in your brain? You are releasing more and more stress into your body. You are activating every cortisol hormone in your body to say, well, cortisol is a hormone, but you're activating so much more of the brain to release that chemical into your body, and you are basically in a constant state of stress and anxiety. And the more time passes, the more cortisol you're starting to release. Now, this is just like from like is it called biological, physiological, whatever place of being. That is just your body's natural response. This is just the way your brain operates when you are in a state of desperation. Okay, so what does this have to do with you then pushing away the stuff? Like, yeah, you're stressed. Who cares? Like, that doesn't mean that you can't still get your goal. Well, the thing about stress and anxiety and cortisol, like the more cortisol we have in our body, is that it actually affects the way that we operate. It affects the way we think. It affects our output. It affects our energy level. It affects pretty much every single part of our lives. Now, all of you out there, I'm sure so many of you have had either moments of high stress where you've gone through a period of time in your life where you've just experienced a ton of stress and anxiety. And as a result, maybe you were more tired, you were more cranky, you experienced more confusion, more brain fog, maybe there was insomnia involved, like maybe the weight gain, you were feeling bad about yourself, the body that you were in. Maybe even weight loss, which is also can be, I suffer from the opposite. I gain weight, so that's why I go to that one first, because that's the one that's most familiar with me. But you can also lose a ton of weight, lose like loss of appetite. It's a bunch of stuff. It literally affects pretty much everything in your body and the way that you are as a person, and even to the point of how your brain literally functions. And one, because of the stress hormone, but two, because of the way that it literally breaks down other things in your body. And that is this like a side effect of other things, you know? And then from that position Obviously, the longer you stay in this desperate mode, the worse it then actually gets, because you're releasing more and more of the cortisol into your system. And so you might experience more and more of these symptoms as the days go by. And as I said, you've probably experienced it, whether it is that you suffer from chronic fatigue, or it was a moment in time, maybe you were at university and you had a specific moment in time where you had a lot of stress because you had exams, stuff like that. Or maybe it's just like, my job is just constantly stressing me out. Like, I know, for instance, the doctor at the veterinary clinic where I work, she's an amazing person, but she is so stressed out all the time because there's a lack of veterinarians in Sicily, and there are so many animals that a lot of them need medical attention. And she works so hard all the time. And so she's just in a state of like almost chronic stress simply because of her job. You know, she loves her job, but because she's just on it so much. And that could be the case for you. Like, it's not that you don't love what you do, it's just that you're doing too much of it, you know, simply as a state of that. So we can enter stress from all sorts of different things. Anything can literally put us into stress unless we understand when to take a break, when to step back, and all of those things. But what we're not aware of as much is that the desperate energy we bring to the table when we limit our desire, our goal to something like it has to come by this time, we are actually making it worse for ourselves and inducing stress by now creating a desperate energy around it. And I'm going to use an example for you ladies out there, because I know this is happening for so many of you. Those of you who want to get married within a specific time. Oh, did I just touch a point? Did I touch a trigger point? Did I flick the switch? Did something just happen? I felt like a collective sigh of like, girl, you got me. Because I work with so many of you who deal with this. And I know that a lot of it is sort of like an ingrained mentality that we feel like as brown, Asian, Arabic women that we need to be married in our 20s before our expiration date, which some places is 24, some places is 34. But like preferably not too far above these ages. Do you get what I'm saying? So we have this like timeline and we're stressing out about it because we feel, even though we don't necessarily see the logic in it, we've come to believe it because it's been ingrained in us by society, by culture, by tradition, by our family, by our friends. And now we're starting to believe it. And as we're watching the years come and go, and our 20s come and go, and potentially our 30s come and go, ooh, girl, the stress that induces, the desperation to find a mate, any mate, and procreate, just to have a marriage, just to have children. And the desperation is wreaking havoc on your body and your ability to even attain the thing that you want, even if you are putting all of your energy and focus and attention on specifically getting married and having children. It's especially when you're doing that, it feels like, but I'm doing everything I can. And now it feels like it's even further away. Well, my darling, it's because you're literally working against yourself unconsciously. You're not doing it because you think it's fun. Your body is not doing it because it thinks it's fun. It's just a chemical reaction. It is just your body doing what your body is meant to do. Okay, so let me just see here. So what happens when we release? I've got my notes here and I just want to make sure I hit every point in this podcast because I feel like this is something that so many of us need to be reminded of so we can snap out of it. I say snap out of it. You know, sometimes it is just snap out of it, but for other people it is a longer process, and that's fine too. It doesn't have to be overnight. All right, if it is overnight, alhamdulillah khair inshallah. If it takes time, alhamdulillah khair inshallah. Okay, so what does cortisol exactly do to us? What is it that makes cortisol so bad for us actually reaching our goal? Well, a couple of things. It makes our minds less clear. It makes our brain fog. How many of us have experienced brain fog? Sorry, I just looked out because I just saw somebody pass. Like, this Airbnb is adorable, it's so cute, but the door here, like there's a little window on the door and I can see when people walk past and it feels like they're so close to me because it's a tiny little street, so it can feel a little bit jarring sometimes when people walk. Luckily, it's not a busy street or anything. It's like one of those little back street, back alley situationships. So it's not a lot of traffic or anything like that, but sometimes it's like, oh, you're right next to me. So, yeah, anyway. Okay, so brain fog. How many of us, raise your hand if you're out in public and you don't feel like raising your hand right now because it will make you look crazy. Don't raise your hand, just do it internally, do it spiritually with me. I certainly am raising my hand. If I could raise more hands, I could raise the other hand, but I'm holding the microphone. If I could raise more hands, I would raise more hands. I have had brain fog too many times. Is that an enjoyable process? No. And why is brain fog a horrible thing when we're trying to reach our goal? Because brain fog literally stops us from thinking creatively. It stops us from seeing things clearly. It stops us and prevents us from having the full capacity of our brain, our logic, our senses. It limits the way we can think, the way we see the world, our way to change perspectives. It limits so much of us, our memory, just remembering things, right? So when we experience this lack of clarity in our brain, we are now also limiting the way we can function and problem solve and see possibilities and to think creatively to how else could I potentially meet somebody, or like what else could I be doing, or how can I enjoy my life despite not being married, whatever. We can't do any of those things, or at least it feels that much more difficult for us to be in that position to do those things, because we are literally putting ourselves in a disadvantage by having more brain fog because we're desperate. So we've got more cortisol. Another thing that happens is because we've got this cortisol running, it doesn't help us in making good decisions. We actually make poor decisions, worse decisions when we have a lot of cortisol in our body. We make horrible decisions sometimes, again, because we have lack of perspective, we have lack of clarity. And so sometimes we make decisions because it's just stress, because we feel like, let's just make something, just get it out of the way. And sometimes we make decisions that we make decisions that we feel like we gave some time to, and in reality, because our brain is so limited, we couldn't make a clear decision, so we make poorer decisions. And a lot of it is based in this stress and sort of like just kind of getting through things. Like, okay, let me just go on this other date with this person. Let me just see this person. Let me not talk to this guy anymore because he's not 6'5" or whatever. And we're making poor decisions now. That makes it even harder for us. Again, we're getting in our own way, right? And another thing that I've just read it, and I'm just going to say it one more time here and like give it its own point, is it narrows our perception. Again, the brain fog, the less creative thinking. So all of a sudden, it's almost like, I don't know if you've seen those like videos and images of people who have different issues with their sight, and there's like those that have like pinpoint sight where it's just completely black, and then there's just like a tiny little hole in the piece of paper or whatever, and that's all that they can see. That is your brain when you're desperate. That is your brain and your perception when you're desperate. You are essentially limiting your ability to perceive anything other than a very, very, very small fraction of the bigger picture. And you're doing that to yourself, meaning when you're looking at something, you are not able to clearly justify and logistically or sensibly speaking, make decisions based on anything, because you don't have the full image. You're not seeing things clearly. So you've got your shades on, like tunnel vision. You've got like the things that you put on horses when they go into traffic, those shades, so that they don't get distracted by traffic besides them and they don't get scared and run off. That's what you're doing to yourself. And in reality, when you've got these shades on, you now cannot see to your left and your right or above or below you. You're just seeing straight ahead and focusing on that goal, but you're only seeing the goal from one perspective, from one angle. And that one angle may not be the correct way for you. So I'm going to give you an example of this specifically, because this is one thing that I've met a lot of you girls doing out there, especially when it comes to marriage. And the reason why I'm specifically only talking about marriage, it doesn't have to be desperate energy only around marriage, but because I know you loves, I know that this is a topic that is on the minds of a lot of you. Okay, so this is why I'm specifically talking about marriage in this episode, because I'm kind of hoping that it'll help help you kind of snap a little bit out of it, or at least get you in the process of starting that journey of getting out of that desperate energy in your mind. When we've got these shades on, when we've got this tunnel vision, we're focusing so hard on this one thing. I need to meet this guy. For a lot of you, it's dating apps. Okay, you've already heard my thoughts on dating apps. If you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to that episode because it's a good one. Okay, and all of a sudden, if someone says maybe your partner is not on a dating app, or maybe if the apps are not working for you and you're not finding good people on the apps, you now feel even more hopeless because now you don't see any other way for you to meet a man. You now feel even more desperate to meet someone on the apps. So you start lowering your standards. You start becoming even more desperate. You start negotiating with yourself and your non-negotiables. You start chasing when you should be the one who's attracting the men, and ultimately making poor and poor decisions. And the worst is that some of you end up in marriages that you deserve so much better than. I'm sorry to say it. Yes, I'm just going to leave it out there. Some of you may sit and chew on that for a little bit. That's okay too. Maybe you know a girl who settled simply because she was desperate and afraid she wasn't going to meet somebody else, because that's desperate energy, right? And instead, what is actually happening is there's a plethora of ways for you to meet a man. And we hear these stories constantly. People meeting each other at a bus stop, people meeting each other while they're traveling, people meeting each other on Umrah in Mecca and Medina, people meeting each other through mutual friends and connections, people meeting each other at the mosque, people meeting each other at the supermarket, people meeting each other literally anywhere. You can meet your partner, if it is written for you, literally anywhere. It is not just through a dating app or through the introduction from your mum and your dad or whatever. It can literally be anywhere. And I know some of you are like, but Zara, I never go out. I don't have a life. Like, I've got the most boring life. So? Sis, let me ask that again. So? Do you really think that that's going to stop Allah? I've said this so many times before in like TikTok specifically, but if you are meant to meet someone and he's the right person, my darling, you could be ordering a shawarma and the delivery guy could be your mate. It could be your partner. It could be the one. Like, you have to go to a doctor's visit and the doctor ends up being the one. Like going to the dentist. Like, I don't care. Do you think Allah cares that you're an introvert? Do you think, my darling, I'm looking at you straight in your eyeball, okay? Do you think that you being a hermit is going to stop Allah from introducing your qadr to you? Right, good, okay, so we're on the same track now, okay, so we get each other now. It doesn't matter whether you are going out all the time, whether you stay at home all the time, whether you're constantly traveling, your right person will always find you if it's written for you, okay? But the desperate energy is not going to help anything. In fact, the desperate energy is going to potentially even stop you from seeing that person when Allah introduces them to you. Because you may have an idea of he has to be 6'4" and he has to have blonde curly hair. But he can't be a revert. And also, I don't know, whatever criteria you have, and so you cannot, he's not allowed to be anything but Pakistani. And he has to also live only in this near vicinity. And you're just blocking yourself because you're making it sort of like, you can have your criteria, you can have your preferences. Yes, go for it, girl, right? Like I've always said, it's not like you're not allowed to ask for a beautiful husband and somebody that you're physically attracted to and all that good stuff, because let's not just marry any Tom, Dick and Harry that comes along, because trust, there are many of those. And the person, you're just looking at them and you're like, ugh, I just kind of want to vomit a little bit inside my mouth every time I look at you. We're not into that. That's not the point. But We also have to be open to the realm of possibility of what Allah has in mind for us, because what Allah thinks is good for us will always be the best for us. What we think is good for us sometimes is good for us, but sometimes is the worst for us. So there has to be an element of that surrendering it back, even though you have preferences. And when you're in that desperate state and that your focus is so narrow and tunnel visioned that you cannot possibly imagine giving anybody else a chance, you may be missing out on the right person when Allah is introducing them to you. And you might be missing out on them because he's 5'9" and not 6'4", on something so stupid. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say something so stupid like that, simply because you've got your tunnel vision on and you're in your little desperate world. And in the meantime, Allah is like, girl, stop. You're asking me, you keep making the same dua, and I keep trying to introduce him, and you're the one getting in the way. You keep pushing it away every time I'm trying to introduce your soulmate. And yet you keep coming to me every night and in the middle of the night, right, praying tahajjud, asking me, pleading, crying to me about it. But you're getting in your own way of the blessing because you're desperate. You're desperate. Okay. Let me just see if I've got anything else written in my notes. I do. I've got so many things. So this is where we need to surrender. The surrendering here is such a huge thing. I've spoken about this so many times, sis. I'm not saying it just for poops and giggles. I'm saying it because it's true. Surrendering really is the key here, because when we surrender and truly surrender, we're not just pretending as if we've surrendered. We actually surrender because we have tawakkul in Allah. Guess what happens with our cortisol? It drops. We take the stress and anxiety away because now we say, it's not my job to figure out how. It's not my job to figure out when. I can't control it anyway. Allah, I trust in Allah, have faith in Allah that he will do his job. All I need to do is take care of my day to day. I just need to look after me and my connection with Allah, and then the rest will come. Allah will take care of the rest because Allah has promised that to me. And that's what we want. We want to manifest from a place of ease, manifest from a place of flow, manifest from a place of no desperation. That is how you let go of your manifestation, and that is how it gets introduced to you even quicker. Have you ever noticed that it's usually the girls who either never talked about marriage or never talked about starting a family or whatever, or never really went out looking for a guy who ends up getting married first or as one of the first ones? Because she doesn't care. That's the thing. The desperate energy is not there. So it's easier for her to see the possibilities. It's easier for her to see when Allah throws in these nuances and blessings and stuff, because she's not so focused on it. She's not, well, it's not about focus. You can be focused, but desperate. The desperate. Focus can be good as long as focus doesn't turn into desperation. Desperation is bad. Focus, good. Desperate, bad. Okay? And there's a difference between the two. Okay? And it all comes into the energy and also how we choose to tackle it. Okay. So my best advice to you, if you're finding yourself feeling bizarre, like I'm in that desperate energy, how do I get out of it? Surrender it to Allah. Give it back to Allah. Say, Allah, you know what? Sit down. However you feel like you need to do it. That was the chair. I don't know if you heard, there was like a little squeak. Of course, I can't make it now. If you would like to choose that was a very high-pitched fart on my end, then go right ahead, sis. Go right ahead. I don't even know if you heard it, but in case you did, go right ahead and think what you need to think. I would do the same. You got my permission. Okay, so, oh my God, what was I saying? The squishy, the squeaky sound completely threw me off. Nope. I lost it. Nope, surrender. Yes, so, okay, good. We're back again, sis, we're back. So, if you're finding yourself in that position where you're like, you know what, Zara, I recognize myself. I feel like I'm in this desperate energy. How do I get out of it? How do I stop myself from being there? And so, as I said, surrender it back to Allah. Give it back to Allah. Sit down, have a conversation with Allah. Say it in a dua. Say it in your sujood. Say it before you go to sleep. Say it right now if you need to. Write it on a piece of paper. Tear it out and say, this is for you, Allah. I don't care what you do. Whatever little ritual, if you want to do a ritual, you can do that. Don't do anything shirky, right? But like however you choose to do it. But what I need you to do is from your soul, from your heart, from like everything in you, acknowledge and recognize one thing and then let go of it. And that one thing is you tried to do Allah's job. Right? You tried to micromanage Allah. Yeah. And you need to recognize that you're incapable. This is not your job. You were trying to do something you were wildly unqualified for. Right? So you need to, you need to eat a little bit of humble pie, and then you need to sit down with Allah and say, you know what, Allah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. I thought I could control this. I thought I could do it all myself. I thought I could manage it, but I can't. And I'm just going to surrender it back to you. And whether you choose for it now to come to me in a year or in 10 years, I trust your plan for me and your timing for me rather than my own. So while sometimes I might get a little stressed out about it, I will come back to you every single time because I know you know better than I do. And so I'm going to rest on that. But there is a massive piece of humble pie, sis, that you need to swallow. You need to take that big piece. Maybe you need to eat the whole pie. I don't know. the slices can vary. That's okay. That's okay. I'm currently in a small calorie deficit daily. So I might have a smaller piece of pie, but I might have to have a couple of pieces of pie throughout the months, right? So, have a piece of pie, humble pie, and have a conversation with Allah and say, you know what? I need to give this back to you because I tried to take control over something that is not within my control. And in fact, I think I'm making it worse. So that's what you need to do. You need to fully surrender it back to Allah. If you're a visual person, you can write it on a piece of paper, as I said. You can burn the piece of paper. You can throw it out in the rubbish. You can make a song and dance about it. I don't know if you want to sing and dance to Allah, but you can do that. You can do it in a dua. You can, whatever you want to do. It's entirely up to you. But the surrendering is the way out of it. It's the release. It's saying, I no longer take responsibility for when and how and where. I just trust in Allah's plan for me and His knowledge of when and how it should be introduced to me, and I will make the dua accordingly and trust that Allah will take care of it from there. That is how you get out of desperation mode. And it is alhamdulillah, that we're Muslims and we have Allah because we have somewhere to put it. And we know that we're not just putting it out into the universe and hoping something will boomerang back. We're giving it to someone who's already told us that He will answer every single dua. So could there possibly be a safer place to put it? Absolutely not. It is the safest place to put your wishes and desires. Now, all you need to do is trust that it is safe there and take a step back. Take a step back, sis. Allah's got it. All right, my darling. Yes, I don't think I have any more in my notes that I feel like I haven't already touched on. So this is where I'm going to leave it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this subject. And also, I would love to help you work on this. If this is you and you feel like, Zara, I need help to figure out how to surrender it, or I'd like to kind of just shoot a couple of ideas by you, blah, blah, blah. Book yourself in for a one-on-one coaching session with me. Let's have this conversation together, you and I, in private. Let's do this together. I'm really good at my job and I would love to help you out with this as well. So my darling, if you want that, go check the link wherever there's a link that I can link stuff on. Book yourself in for a session. Let's have that conversation. But until then, or until next week's episode, inshallah, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.